Unit 3, What is going to happen next? Pre-reading questions. Who said it? Write the name. 1. I can't understand it. 2. What's that building? 3. I don't know about that. 4. We'll be very careful. 5. They don't want visitors, do they? 6. They're all dead, aren't they? 7. Somebody's coming this way. 8. I saw some kids. 9. Everything will be fine. 10. I don't like this place at all.
What is going to happen next? Danger at the old house. On Jack's birthday, Uncle Ted gave him a fishing rod. Uncle Ted took Jack and his sister Mary to the river. They fished all day, but they didn't see any fish and none of them caught anything. The next day, the weather was cloudy and dull. The stream looked grey and gloomy. It doesn't look so pretty today, said Mary sadly. They set up their rods and began fishing. But still no one caught a single fish. I can't understand it, said Uncle Ted. The stream should be full of fish this early on in the season. I've never known it so empty. Jack looked upstream. In the distance, he saw an old building. It was built across the water. What's that building? He asked. It was a ruin until a few months ago, said Uncle Ted. Nobody ever went there. But then a man called Sid Scrub and his brother, Harry, bought it. Now it's a small factory where material is hand-dyed. The material is sold to make clothes and tablecloths. Lots of people work at the factory. But they say that Sid Scrub and his brother are not very nice. They have bad tempers. Jack looked at the building through his binoculars. It looked like an interesting place. Can Mary and I go and have a look? He asked. I don't know about that, said Uncle Ted. You don't want to bump into Sid Scrub, do you? We'll be very careful, said Mary. Uncle Ted thought for a moment. All right, he said. But you must not go too near the building. Do you promise? Yes, we promise, said Jack and Mary. They set off along the bank towards the old building. As they got closer, they could see it still looked like a ruin. All the windows had wooden boards over them. There were lots of tiles missing from the roof and weeds grew out of gaps in the walls. Someone had put barbed wire along the top of the fence and nailed a large "Keep Out" sign to the wall. At the front of the building was a gate. It was locked with a heavy padlock. It's a scary-looking place, isn't it? Said Mary. I don't think I like it very much at all. They don't want visitors, do they? Said Jack. Mary walked carefully down to the water's edge and peered under the old building. She saw that the water flowed underneath it and through a heavy, iron grid. The grid looked old and rusty. From there, it flowed into a deep, dark pool. Suddenly she let out a gasp of horror. Jack! Jack! Come quickly! Look at this! It's awful! Jack ran over to her. He looked to where she was pointing. There, trapped behind the grid, were lots of dead fish. Mary shuddered. How terrible! Those poor fish! They're all dead, aren't they? What has happened to them? Shh, whispered Jack. Listen. I can hear something. Someone's coming this way. Jack pulled Mary back against the wall of the house. Suddenly a door opened and Jack and Mary heard men's voices. The voices came closer and closer. "I tell you," Sid said a voice. "I saw some kids." "I can't see any kids here," Harry said. "Sid, you must have imagined it." "Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Now stop making such a fuss. Shut the door and let's get back to work." After the door had banged shut, Jack let out a sigh of relief. "I don't like this place at all," said Mary. "There's something very bad happening here. Think about these questions. 1. Why do you think Jack and Mary wanted to go and look at the old building? 2. What did Jack and Mary promise Uncle Ted? Do you think they broke the promise? Why or why not? 3. Why do you think the fish were dead? 4. What do you think Mary and Jack should do now? Listen and read. Lucy, look what I've found. Alex, what are they? Lucy, old photos. Alex, oh. Lucy, look at Mum. Her dress is pretty, isn't it? Alex, I don't know. Lucy, and here's Dad. His glasses are funny, aren't they? Alex, yeah. Lucy, oh, look at the baby. He's so sweet, isn't he? Alex, Lucy, you're bored, aren't you? Alex, Lucy, in fact, you're asleep, aren't you?
Awful. Banged. Bank. Barbed. Belong. Binoculars. Board up. Boards. Board. Borrow. Briefcase. Building. Bump into. Keep out. Lock. Material. Moment. Mysterious. Mystery. Nail. Padlock. Peered. Pointing. Pool. Pretty. Promise. Careful. Caught. Cloudy. Danger. Dead. Distance. Dull. Edge. Empty. Event. Expect. Fact. Factory. Fence. Relief. Rod. Roof. Ruin. Rusty. Scary looking. Season. Set up. Shudder. Shut. Sigh. Sign. Single. Sold. Float. Fuss. Gap. Gasp. Gate. Glasses. Gloomy. Grew out. Grey. Grid. Hand dyed. Horror. Imagine. In fact. Iron. Still. Stream. Sweet. Tablecloths. Tempers. Tiles. Towards. Trapped. Underneath. Upstream. Voices. Weather. Weeds. Whispered. Wire.